From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Okay, take one. Roll film. Action.
Opus, dear boy, we're ready to shoot the scene.
Call my stunt double.
Yes, I know it's tricky, darling, but you can nail it.
I don't do whales.
Whales? Good God, there's no whales. This is the big love scene, darling.
Fibber!
Don't speak rubbish, sweetheart. We're Hollywood people, not liars.
It says right here on the schedule, scene 1, a rabbit killer whale rockets up from the hole and grabs our little hero and snapping jaws and rips the stuffing out of him.
No, truly, my boy, we changed the schedule. It's the kissing scene on a tropical beach with Nicole Kidman.
Well, that's a different kettle of beans. I had some ideas, if I may. You see, you take your nose and you turn it like this, and then you poof out your lips, you see. Where the females just love it. Oh, gosh. Hope she likes herring stomach omelets. Listen, no nude shots, okay? My pants stay on. Okay, no pants. Because I want Miss Kidman protected. She is not the kind of girl that shows her niblets. I'm a little nervous. Oh, I hope she's gentle. Miss Kidman.
Cut. Very, very, very good. Print.
Mama, what a woman.
I love humans. Like penguins, they're noble, perfect, attractive animals in every way. Ooh. Except for their bottom plumage. Wait! What temptation is this? I am irresistibly compelled to complete their unfinished voyage. I must not, for the sake of all that is holy. I must not. No! Yes! Gimme, don't do it! Take him down! No, you must! I won't! No, I'm just not that mean. You know, sometimes the rear ends justify the means.
Was that amazing? You know, I wasn't planning on this, but a big hand for Sophie Breathed, who edited that, please. Thank you. Although we have a lot of young people here tonight for Graphic Novel Night, and again, if you weren't here before, I'm Michael Kavna, a comic riffs blogger, columnist, cartoonist with the Washington Post and the Comic Strip Warped. I know we have a lot of young people here, but anyone here remember the 80s at all? Anyone? Yes? I see hands. I think I see a few penguin fins because, you know, we'd come out of the hostage crisis. We'd come out of waiting in, anyone remember odds and end days for gas? And then Reagan comes to office and, well, it was a different time. And suddenly, we needed innocence, but we needed skewed innocence. We needed a sweetheart, maybe from a polar ice cap before it started melting too much. And what we got was, you know, I'll say this as a cartoonist, you're lucky if you get one creation in your whole career that really touches people, that moves people, if you get one Snoopy. And in the 80s, we got Opus. And you know, how about a big hand for Opus? What we got with him, we got Bill the Cat, and we got Steve Dallas. Bill the Cat, nice. We got Bill the Cat, which was sort of Garfield without Garfield with Garfield in a twisted way. We got Steve Dallas, who seemed to presage Michael Douglas, you know, skewering Greed is Good 80s. And we got the Meadow Party when we needed him. It just was an amazing cast of characters. And, you know, that they don't go away. Look at that. So what we have now is they're back. We've been through Pete and Pickles, and we've got, you know, all these beautiful new books, but one man, one Pulitzer winner, one screenwriter, one director, one illustrator, all from his brain. Last year, boom, popped up last summer on Facebook. Did anyone here look Facebook last summer and see Bloom County return? Now, thankfully, we get him. It's like a blast from the past that we really needed, and it's from the genius mind of Berkeley Breathed. Please welcome up here, Berkeley Breathed.
Very nice, Michael. Thank you. Gracious. Am I on? Am I on? Great. Wow, this is so much fun being back. And it's kind of what I wanted to quickly go through. Everyone wants to know why, and it is a good question. I even had to ask myself and think about it before I had a good ready-made answer for it, which is why this is a great opportunity to go over it with you, my extended family. We're ready to go? Oh, let me put the next slide up. So again, why? I wanted a glib, easy, one-sentence answer, and it actually didn't exist. So I went back and thought about it, and I realized there were three things, like so often in life, that all come together, you didn't expect it, and it forms something new, and it forms a new idea, and it puts you in a place like me that I didn't think I was going to go to again. Because when I stopped Bloom County, I really had never thought ever going back. So why all of a sudden was it a good idea? And it's sort of a triangle of causation. And the first side of it, believe it or not, was one of my children's books called Mars Needs Moms, which it is my favorite of my books, short of the new Bill the Cat book. But it was drawn and written out of a particular moment in my life when I watched my son, who was Milo, who's there, the book stars Milo, say something very, 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 very bad and unfortunate to his mother. And I wrote the book that night and spent the next 6 weeks illustrating it in a frenzy. And it basically tells the story of a bunch of Martians that come down to Mars. They don't have moms on Mars. They need one. They think that they know what moms are good for, and they come and they steal Milo's mom, who he has just said some horrible things to, and clearly doesn't appreciate his mom like he should. And this is the look of the book here. So as you might expect, it's fun and silly and whimsical. And he ends up very badly needing a space helmet that he broke, and his mom that's on Mars comes over and takes off her helmet and gives it to him while she slowly dies. That's the moment that I was hoping my child might understand about their parents, that there is probably only going to be one person in their lives, despite what the songs say, that is willing to die for you, and it's the very person you probably said something horrible to about 10 minutes ago. So think about that. And that was the idea of the book. So this is the movie that it came out of. This is the movie that came out from my book. Now, I had been spending years getting movies and projects into Hollywood. This is the only one that made it actually onto film. And I thought it should have a pretty good chance of giving it to my favorite film director, Bob Zemeckis, with my favorite studio, Walt Disney. How could it go wrong? So they immediately threw out my book, told me not to come in the doors, and they redesigned everything and rewrote everything. And this is an old story in Hollywood, but it was a new one for me. And I wrote this for the Hollywood Reporter as I drew it to show my feelings about the movie, or my character's feelings about the movie, which is abject confusion. And it nearly brought Disney Film Studio to its knees, along with another movie called Carter of Mars that year. Mars was not a good thing for Disney 3 or 4 years ago. So this is the second side of the triangle. People think that because of Donald Trump, I came back, and that would be giving him far, far too much credit. Trump and I go way back. He had a great quote about me and said that I was a poor man's Doonesbury, and that I'd probably quit way too late. That I started one of my older books 20 years ago. And I didn't think I'd see him again. But I think of Donald Trump as our zombie reverse canary in the coal mine. You know how they used to carry canaries into a coal mine, and when they stopped singing, they knew they were in trouble. We've got a canary that rose from the dead and started singing, and now we're really in trouble. So this is what he just represents, the world that I was about to miss, the one that created him, and I didn't want to miss out on it. As far as Donald Trump is concerned, he's basically untouchable now. Saturday Night Live should just quit and give it up, as will all the networks, and stop, because everything we do only generates more of the cons. So I may talk around Donald Trump in the future of the strip, and I may talk about the world from whence he comes or the effect that it's having on the rest of us. But he's hopefully not going to get mentioned much. Now, I saw this painting and thought as an illustrator, this is a sidebar, you don't see images of people very often that pretty much contain everything about the person in the painting, and this was very, very successful. He requested it painted. He commissioned it and had it done for his Mar-a-Lago estate. Everything you need to know about this man is in that painting, and I couldn't resist. I don't think this has occurred to him. So yes, Donald Trump somewhat represents the sort of the second side of my triangle of return. But here's the third, and this is the good one. This all happened at the same time. Again, a movie that should have been a success was not, and I was disappointed that I had so little control over my own material. The world was going in some new areas that I didn't want to miss out on as a writer. And then let me tell you this story. And I'm a story guy. I'm a narrative guy. That's why I got into children's books. I love a great story. Comic strips, you can tell some stories. There is some storytelling in it. Not as much as I'd like, because it often doesn't have a good ending. And now consider this one. So there's a 10-year-old boy in 1967, and let me put it this way. This is what set off my going back to this side of the triangle, was the publication of Go Set a Watchman, Harper Lee's unfortunate return to the pages that I think she had very little to do with, and the hullabaloo that happened about it. It got me thinking about not only my own characters, but also this story, which I'm about to tell you. So that's Harper. That's her in about 1960, 61. And in 1967, a 10-year-old boy who fancied himself a future writer and future artist was in his Los Angeles English class, and he was told to write to his favorite author. And he wrote a letter, like so many people did in those days. I'm sorry, I'm skipping around. This is the imagery that lasted so long in my imagination I'll return to. But this is the letter that 10-year-old boy wrote to Harper Lee in 1967. And it's fairly standard as these kind of letters go. I get them myself from people, from kids. But at the bottom, you see, I typed, "We want more Mockingbird." And it was my way of saying, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. Bring my characters back. Don't let them die. So this letter was sent back to me, as well all of ours were in that class, from Miss Lee, as her publisher in those days sent all the fan mail that she got. They was basically returned back to her from whence it came, because she never answered mail. So the reason that picture is there is because after I was disappointed with my imploring of my favorite author to return and not let my favorite characters die, I went on, and when I was 12 or 13, I painted this. And as it goes down in Bloom County Legend, it was my first cartoon, and I didn't realize it. I handed it in as an art project to Mrs. Lewis's class, and she gave me an F. So I showed it to my father, who probably is to either get credit or blame for my sense of humor, and he looked at it, and he said one word. I put the word back on underneath that drawing and handed it back into Mrs. Lewis, and Mrs. Lewis gave me an A, but it was an A/F, meaning I had failed the art project, but her comment about the A was, "You're going to be a very wealthy man one day." She hated it, but she recognized it, as I did, that something magical happened, a funny picture with a word. Either one of them aren't particularly funny until you put them together. Voila, it's magic that none of us can explain, and I pretty much knew my destiny at that point. But believe me, I'm coming back around to Harper Lee, don't forget. When it came time to invent a comic strip in the Washington Post here in town, didn't know what to suggest to me. I didn't know what I should be doing. They knew I did a college cartoon that you can't sell to a regular newspaper. They said, do whatever the hell you want, come up with something and we'll do it. And in those days, we weren't into marketing so much that you would have come up with a brand or a gimmick or a more catchy idea for your strip. I had nothing. All I knew is I wanted to have some funny characters in a place. What would that place look like? It would look like Macomb County from To Kill a Mockingbird. And when it came time to draw the damn thing, I was just drawing To Kill a Mockingbird. And when I populated it with characters, it was children. It was parents that was there to comfort their kids. When it came time to draw a house, this was in Iowa City, I drew the house of, it's not Macomb County, but it probably looks a little like some of the houses in Macomb County. Mockingbird was informing my art, as art should happen, and I was continuing Mockingbird in my own way. After my imploration of Miss Lee was getting nowhere. So I went on to do Bloom County, spent the next 10 years doing Bloom County. 40 years after that little boy's letter to Miss Lee in 1967, I get this piece of fan mail. Dear Mr. Breathed, this is a plea from a dotty old lady, from others not dotty at all. Please don't shut down Opus. Can't you at least give him a reprieve? Opus is simply the best comic strip of all time. And at the bottom, she says, much love, Harper. So 40 years later, the woman who writes Nobody finally writes back the kid that wrote her at 10 and begged her not to quit and not to let her characters die. She was not a creature of irony. She probably could never appreciate this on the level that I did. But when you get a gift from the gods like this as a writer, you don't easily dismiss it. And I received these at a time when I really wasn't in a position to act on them. When her new book came out, and I realized that she was at the end of her life, and her franchise was threatened with a bad move, and her characters were, when I say franchise, I mean the legacy of her characters. I thought back about mine, and I thought back about the letter she had written me some years before, imploring me not to quit, combined with those other two things, which is my storytelling I wanted to get back control of. Hollywood couldn't give it to me, and great times were coming to be a comic strip writer. I decided to go back. And the reason that these are here is because I had to rediscover what made it fun to begin with, because I quit Bloom County because it had stopped being fun in 1989, which is what most people stop a successful enterprise, is because they become bored. And when you become bored, your guys are going to sense it right away, and you don't want that. So I wanted to get out before I embarrassed myself. Bill Watterson, I'm sure, did the same thing. Gary Larson did too. Unfortunately, other strips haven't taken the cues. That's the approach that we if we're being responsible for our readers, should take. So at one time, it was a huge amount of fun for me to do. So I went back and found, and I'm going to throw a few of these images I remember I flagged just a year ago to remind myself, did I find this fun? Did I actually ever laugh at my own work? Which we're not supposed to admit, but let me tell you, when it's working, you do laugh at your own work. And it's the only time you really know, especially in the old days when you didn't have Facebook, that you might be doing it right. So these are the images. I always laugh at this one. I think Barbara Bush in Bill's arms is intrinsically funny. What's going on? The Vicodin is kicking in. I remember giggling at that at about 3 a.m. when I drew it. Cheney's outside with a Molotov cocktail. Happy hour already. Anytime I can put an edited thing over Opus's butt, I laugh at myself. Various images. Yeah. So I realized and I remembered that I used to amuse myself, which you have to do in this business. So I felt much better. I forgot about that one. Here's a coincidence. My son, Milo, is best friends with Sparky Schultz's grandson. And it's not because we knew each other at all. He just happened to meet him in Santa Barbara and he came home and says, oh, I met a guy, I think his grandfather you might know. Now, some statisticians need to tell me what the chances are that my son became best friends with Sparky Schultz's grandson. So it's pretty cool. So again, the universe is telling me something, right, a year ago. So I dug into my files and found the old original 4 panels from 1981 that I started doing this. And it was the most terrifying moment that I've had as a creator for a long time, because remembering how to fill those 4 spaces, and there's something unique about a 4-panel comic strip, a 3-panel strip. It's a matter of rhythm and timing that you can catch and then you can lose, and you forget how to do it. It's not like riding a bicycle. You do forget. So it was terrifying. I'd love to say that I was totally emboldened by going back and seeing how I could amuse myself like an idiot. But I didn't know that I could fill those, which is why when it showed up in Facebook a year ago, you didn't see any press. There was no stories about it. There was no interviews, which drove my publicists and such crazy, that normally this would be a big deal. You get as much publicity as you can. I wanted no publicity. I didn't know whether I could fill those 4. So I did the first one. Some of you remember this. Anyone remember seeing this one? Well, the only reason I mention it is because for an unsteady author, a cartoonist, I got to panel 4, I knew exactly how to end it, and I knew he should be pulling up that side of his underwear, and it was 1983 all over again, as if that time had never happened. I mean, I'm 59 now. I was 22 when I did this stuff originally. So now it's been updated, and you're seeing hopefully the same DNA that was in the strip in the 80s, but with a different twist to it. I'd like to think so. So I've only got a few minutes left, and I'm going to show the secret Watterson letters. Now, some of you, have anyone been to Comic-Con in the last few years? I did this there, and it got infamous, and I got in a whole lot of legal trouble about it. And we probably have some kids here, so I'm going to have to zoom through a couple of slides really fast. If any of you wonder what cartoonists do when they're not doing their strip, they write to each other. In the old days, we did anyway. And Bill Watterson and I were friends via snail mail on actual onion skin paper for dozens and dozens and dozens of pieces of mail, because I had successfully got myself out of the contract for my syndicate and gotten my ownership back. He was desperately trying to do it, and he was not getting success. He's a very, very unhappy guy. So we had a lot of letters. Cartoonists like to draw on the bottom of their letters to each other, and that's when their inner demons come out. So you're about to see some of the letters that Bill Watterson wrote to me, and with the illustrations on the bottom, as to see what these guys are really like deep down inside. Again, these are to me. I am the object of this stuff. I am the target, more specifically. And you'll see that the sweet Calvin and Hobbes creator had a side to him that you might not have known about. And you have to know a little bit of subtext is that I had won a Pulitzer Prize. I had a TV special recently, and he was dead set on mocking me for both, largely because I was also known for spending a lot of the money on fast speedboats, which is about as opposite a thing that he could imagine doing since he lived on a bicycle. So this is after the Christmas special. Again, this is his drawings to me, so everything here is drawn by Bill Watterson. Go ahead and quote scripture. This is real holiday entertainment. It's after the A Wish for Wings That Work Christmas special in 1987. He didn't think that a hairball should be in it. Now, this is me in the boat. He's drawing the syndicate guy on the dock with the money, and I'm stuffing the money into my boat, kicking my cartoon characters off while I go spend the money from the syndicate boss. And he's saying, lazy freeloaders, I said, none of you ride until your faces are on boxer shorts. Remember, he sold nothing in his entire career, not a single thing with Calvin and Hobbes on it. And the syndicate guy is going, I'll have this guy and this boy back in the palm of my hand in no time. This says everything about Bill at the time. And there's, again, he's drawing me as Opus in my speedboat. And Opus, and again, this is a reflection on the special. So I sound like a mixture of Woody Woodpecker and Donald Duck. Heck, it's worth it. You know what's cool is he found a picture of my boat and he completely nailed the stripe that was on the side of it. So here he is, he's got my cartoon, my character saying to Hobbes, just quit the daily papers like I did, buy a boat, blow all your savings. When you run out of gas money, sell your home and move to a smelly pier in Seattle, which is exactly what I did. Now, no, it's good, it's all good. This is the Bill Watterson you thought you knew. Now, I think the dodgy one's coming up. Oh, no, here's the next one. So, Ronald Reagan had called me in 1982 on the phone and nearly woke me up with a compliment about that week's strip because it had Nancy drawn in it. That's the a very short version of the long story. So it got in the press, and I did tell, it was a true story, no one believes it, that when I answered the phone to talk to President Reagan, I didn't know it was him, and I said hello, and they said, please hold for the president, and he gets on, and Michael has a better Reagan version than I do, so I won't try it, but he said, hello, I just want to tell you how much I liked the strip this last Sunday. And I said, Mr. President, I think you should know I'm not wearing any pants right now. So he heard that story, and this is his version of it. Don't you think that I could sell these one day and put my kids through school on this stuff? So the last letter that I got from him before he went off the grid, and he's been gone. I never heard from him again. The last one was this. I think it's okay to show you. It's Opus drawing. Now, some of you know who the lady is on top. It's Daisy May from Little Abner, if you go way back. He says, Opus is saying, a few more lines, la-di-da, I'll be back on my boat, da-da-da-da-da, now the Pulitzer is as good as mine. So I finished that drawing and sent it back to him. So I'm going to go through it real quick before it ends up on social media. And there it is. I would love to let you linger on that for a moment because it's really a good job. It's really a great drawing. So I got him back. If some of you have read Facebook, I got him back April Fool's Day when I drew Calvin and Hobbes instead of Bloom County that day. And as I will be for every April Fool's for the next 10 years, by the way, hoping to smoke him out, and I did not. I don't know what he's doing, but he's refuses to surface. So yes, I'm back having fun, and how could I not be having fun? Facebook, the changes are legion between the old world and the new with this. I think that I'm trying this for the first time with a foot from the old days in newspapers onto digital media. I had to make a decision a year ago whether I go back to newspapers and make a crap load of money or do it for free on Facebook and have freedom and talk to all of you within an hour of drawing the strip and hearing what you think about it and your stories from your background and your kids and your families. And I went with the Facebook. Now, I know it's limiting. Some of you aren't on Facebook. We're going to come up with some paradigms so that there's some other options. But I'm afraid we're not going to newspapers again. I don't think I could ever be edited by the editor of the Salt Lake City Tribune again. So thank you. So we're here for books, and I know I've got to wrap up. I have thrown the gauntlet down as a challenge to myself. Can I do a picture book for children, and you all, but for kids, starring the least predictably appropriate character for children's literature I could come up with? And I'm going to try it with Bill the Cat. You should know that I was very well edited on this book. Any good author should always be careful to stay true to his character. You're often pulled off of character for the sake of a gag or a storyline, and you're not servicing the character's real personality by doing it. I found myself going back to old instincts as I was painting this book about where Bill came from by putting emotion and personality into my lead character. Bill the Cat has no emotion, he has no personality, he's a blank slate, he is a cipher. And I kept, by instinct, having his eyes, even just his eyeballs come together as if he's focusing on something. And I'd get a note back from my editor going, you've got to get his focus off. He's got to look like he's completely, nearly comatose. And he was correct. Bill works, I believe, and maybe you can tell me better than I can, as a cipher. We react to him. We project everything on to poor Bill. If we love him, it's probably because we're lonely. It's not because Bill is so lovable. And how do you design that into a picture book for children and telling them something, maybe a little bit of a lesson at the end? So we wrote a simple origin story for Bill that little Binkley at age 4 or 5 finds the animal of his dream at an animal shelter. It gets cruelly taken away and sent to the North Pole by Cat X, Kitty Shoppers International. He loses his cat and he spends years dreaming about him. This caused me untold amount of trouble from Disney when I put Winnie the Pooh in there. And we decided to ignore them. But that's little Binkley with his version of the missing Bill the Cat on top of his head. I will tell you that there on the far left of the painting, there used to be a Darth Vader doll. They did succeed in getting me to pull that off with a lawsuit from LucasArts. So they didn't think it was as funny as Disney did. So Bill goes off into a great adventure for years, slips into a society and a civilization that thinks he's a god, and they build him pyramids. And eventually aliens come and grab him, and they lure him away from his life of ease. And he's delivered back to Opus, who just met him years before as he's passing through Bloom County. And Opus had given him his underwear with the words Opus written in it, which the aliens saw, read, recognized as the source of where this cat should go back to, brought him back to Opus, and Opus journeys back via every way he can to bring Bill the Cat back to the little boy who loved him or needs to love him. And he returns to Bloom County in the end of the book, just as me and all the rest of you are doing too. So I thought it was a nice way to end. And I don't know if I have any time for any questions, but I appreciate you being here. Do we have to exit within a few minutes, or do I have 5 minutes? You can talk. Okay, a few minutes. So a couple of questions, and then I'll send you back on your way, and hope you enjoyed it. Oh, by the way, some of the videos you saw were Opus tests done over the years as they tried to bring them to the movies. They were never going to succeed. You can see some of the problems in that you're trying to bring a voice and a personality to something that each of you have already done within your head. It's a hat trick. It's very tough. The first one did anyone know who was narrating? Who was playing the director? John Cleese, that's right. A friend of mine I picked up on the Santa Barbara beach like a drifter, and we became friends. The second one, does anyone know who the voice of Opus was? And the second one when he was pulling the kid's pants down? Hyde Pierce, that's right. Probably the best voice that we tested, and we tested hundreds of people. Going all the way back to the 80s when Steven Spielberg tried his best, and it flummoxed smokes. I can tell you there won't be a Bloom County movie, there won't be an Opus movie, largely because of my experience in Hollywood already, but as witnessed by the last memo I got from from the guys running the studio at Miramax, and I won't even mention them by name, the Weinstein brothers, actually. He spent years, 5 years we spent trying to figure out how to please them and get them to sign off on an Opus movie, and finally the last memo I got, and I am not making this up, lose the voice from the penguin, it's only going to confuse the audience. So he didn't want the Opus to talk at all. So I knew that actually the gods were speaking, and this was not to be. So it should be left to the comic world. This is where I've returned to. A question, yeah, after I dangled the opportunity. Yes? Mm-hmm. Oh, microphone, I didn't know there was one. I can't see it. Great.
So I saw in your early Facebook posts, one of your first pictures you put up was you working on the computer, drawing your first cartoon.
Right.
Back as Bloom County 2015.
A year ago.
And yeah. And I'm just curious whether or not you're still actually putting any pen to paper in your process, or if it's at this point your
sold out the digital totally.
You're completely.
I still have hundreds of sketchbooks. Everything starts as a pencil sketch, and then I either scan or I move it to the computer and I draw on the computer, and that's just allowed me to do it on schedule now. And I'm being told that we're out of time, so. That's the big question. Thank you. I think that I'm as happy as you are that we're doing this again. We're back together at Bloom County. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am, and you need to know I'm really having a good time. So thank you very much. I'll see you next year.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.